All right, somebody made a request for a more abbreviated version of the very suspicious plane crashing into helicopter incident in Washington, D.C. on the night of January 29th, 2025, what's now being touted as the worst aviation accident since November 12th, 2001, in terms of accidents in the United States. And if you watched my video last night, that's nearly 2 hours, we definitely talked about the date November 12th, because that's the Superior General's birthday, the leader of the Jesuits. But here, let's go through this piece by piece. Notice that 67 people are dead, and their bodies are in the water. Again, if you're new here, what I talk about is the Kabbalistic language of coding numbers into words. And the reason I started looking into this back in 2013 is because Freemasonry is based in Kabbalah, and there's a lot of number rituals. If you pay attention, there's very recurring numbers in media. For example, the number 33 is so often in suspicious news stories. In this case, it's the plane that got diverted to runway 33 at Reagan National Airport. And never mind that Ronald Reagan was the 33rd governor of California prior to becoming president of the United States, where he occupied the Oval Office in Washington, D.C., known as the Masonic City. And of course, the Scottish Rite House of the Temple is in D.C. with the highest degree of 33. But yes, there's certain numbers that show up a lot in the news. And one of those numbers is also 67. It's not as common as 33, but when death happens in the news, if you pay attention, 67 is right there. And in the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words, blood sacrifice equals 67, as does human sacrifice. Other words that equate to 67 are water. These bodies ended up in the water. Satanic is also 67. And again, you get up to that 33rd degree, there's been some whistleblowers that it gets a little bit satanic up there, depending on what lodge you're in. Let's not forget the man who just returned to the White House, who was once the apprentice. That's the first degree of Freemasonry. And for the record, Freemasonry equals 58, like secret society. Remember, Trump announced from the 58-story Trump Tower that he was running for the 58th election. But again, Trump runs on Mega, which is the highest degree of the Church of Satan. And as we talked about last night, Reagan National Airport, as it's commonly called. Reagan National Airport equals 229. And of course, this accident happened 229 days after Trump's birthday. But yes, 64 people on the plane, 3 people on the helicopter. And you might have noticed that they have been referring to the airplane as Blue Streak. If you've been watching the news, they refer to it as Blue Streak. That was its call sign, Blue Streak. Funny enough, in Gematria, Blue Streak equals 33. Blue Streak that didn't make it to runway 33. Blue Streak equals 33 in the same way Masonry equals 33, in the same way Order equals 33, in the same way Secrecy equals 33, in the same way Federal equates to 33. Again, they're saying 64 people were on that plane. When you think 64, you might think of the chessboard. Again, Masonry pays tribute to chess with their checkerboard floors. The black and white checkered pattern. But 64 people on the plane, 3 people on the helicopter. And again, if you're new here, year after year, we show how there's ritual sacrifices for big sports championships. This is like clockwork. So often it's the athletes from the league, people related, like one of the years Brady won one of his rigged Super Bowls. They often member the Brady Bunch in a perfect numerical ritual. In Gematria, Kansas City Chiefs equals 64. And you might recall last year was their 64th season, and Norma Hunt, their owner, died on June 4th, 6-4. And that's also the day that the 49ers were established in history, and they went on to play the 49ers for the second time and beat them in the Joe Montana Bowl. You might recall Joe Montana was 67 years old last year, which is the 19th prime number. The Chiefs were the first team to go back-to-back in 19 years. The game went to overtime 19-19. Again, McCall Hardman caught the game-winning touchdown. It was his 19th career touchdown, not to mention McCall Hardman equals 58, like it was Super Bowl 58. And you might recall Deebo Samuel was the first player to take the field 19 minutes after the hour. And if you doubt those things, you can go back and watch the tape. We documented them in real time. But here's the thing about Gematria. It's based on the alphabetic order forwards and backwards. Kansas City Chiefs equates to 64 when you run the alphabetic order forwards. When you run the alphabetic order in reverse, Kansas City alone equates to 67. You get a bigger number with just one word. So the Chiefs have this connection with 64 and 67. And go back and check the box score. Last year in the AFC Championship, Lamar Jackson had 64 passing yards at halftime versus the Chiefs. And in that game, Mahomes got his 41st all-time road win and dropped the Ravens to 5-8 versus the Chiefs, where Baltimore equals 41 forwards, 58 in reverse. Of course, Andy Reid stayed on 58 losses. So this plane was from Kansas, which is right next door to Missouri, where Kansas City is, where the Chiefs are. And you might recall last year, before the Chiefs became 4-2 in Super Bowls on the 42nd day of the year, when Jackie equals 42, the Jackie Robinson statue was stolen from Wichita, Kansas. You might recall that story. So the Chiefs are trying to make history, right? Last year before the game, 3 of their fans froze. Now they're trying to become the first team ever to three-peat, when that term's associated with Pat Riley, not to be confused with Patrick Mahomes. And, of course, the coach who's known for the three-peats, Phil Jackson, who's born September 17th, just like Patrick Mahomes. So think about this with 3 dead occupants on the helicopter. 3 occupants on the helicopter. The Black Hawk helicopter. When you think Black Hawks, you think Native Americans. When you think Chiefs, you think Native Americans. What was the plane called that crashed? The American Eagle. What's the Super Bowl? The Eagles versus the Chiefs. It's Black History. Remember, this is Super Bowl 59. Black History Month ends on the 59th day of the year. Motown came out in 59. And Gematria, slave, Negro, Rasta, blues, they all equal 59. Like OJ died 59 days after the last Super Bowl, and his death was announced as the Masters was teeing off, when Ephesians 6 verses 5 through 9 is slaves obey your masters. Josh Allen wore the glove all year in tribute to OJ. Josh Allen fell to 7-6 in the playoffs like OJ died at 76. Run it in reverse. Slave, Negro, blues, Rasta, master, they all equal 76. Like San Francisco is hometown. But okay, the Eagles and the Chiefs, the American Eagle into the Black Hawk. This is the other piece. Look at the Army wing that this helicopter belonged to, the 12th Aviation Battalion. What movie's coming out on February 10th, the day after the Super Bowl? The new Black Hawk Down series is what's coming out on February 10th. And from January 29th to February 10th is how many days? It is 12 days later. 12 days later. Now, if you've been watching the news, they've been saying this is the worst tragedy in the air in D.C. since September 11th. If you measure from September 11th, 2001, and by the way, this plane that crashed, this type of plane right here, the CRJ 700, this plane made its commercial debut in the year 2001, just for the record. But from September 11th, 2001 to January 18th, 2002, that's when it released in theaters Black Hawk Down. Black Hawk Down released January 18th, 2002, 129 days after 9/11. 129. This accident on January 29th, 129 with a Black Hawk. Okay? From the Black Hawk helicopter crashing on Trump's golf course shortly after he became president, April 17th, 2017, to this helicopter crashing is 93 months and days. The Black Hawk Down incident that had the movie made about it that was a blockbuster in 2002 that the new series is also based on, that happened in 93. And go back to the year 93, what was going on in the NFL. The Buffalo Bills were in process of doing the wrong kind of three-peat. Losing. They ended up losing 4 in a row, actually. But the other type of three-peat that was going on was Michael Jordan. And remember, Mahomes was born the year that Jordan three-peated. Again, sadly, this is the way this world operates, with the rig sports, the rig news, the ritual death, the powers that shouldn't be who control the rig sports league. Again, American football is credited to the Freemason Walter Camp, who's also a member of Skull and Bones, Order 322. If you missed the longer video I did last night, I also talked about where this fit in with the Chicago Blackhawks, the hockey team. Chicago Blackhawks has the 322 in their gematria. Again, the Blackhawks beat the Capitals on the Pope's birthday, which was 43 days earlier, when plane crash equals 43. If you're new here, I talk about how the Jesuits are the ones that control this nation. It's news, it's sports. They're the parents of modern Freemasonry. Again, you look into the rites of modern Freemasonry, many of those rites are written by Jesuit priests. There's even Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope. You can look it up. He does the pose with the hidden hand, which is a Masonic pose. Not to mention Pope Francis equals 58, like Freemasonry, like secret society, and he became a Jesuit in 1958. Again, he became the first Jesuit pope shortly before Jesuit-educated Donald Trump decided to run for president. And as we talked about last night, the guy who oversees this airport is also Jesuit-educated, went to Fordham like Trump. With regards to the Jesuits, also don't forget the Superior General. That's the leader of the Jesuits. His birthday is November 12th. They're saying this is the worst aviation accident in the U.S. since November 12th, 2001, shortly after 9/11, which would have been his, he just turned 76 in 2024. So it would have been his 53rd birthday in 2001. But again, the Superior General, from his birthday to this wreck, was the 79th day of his age. American Airlines equals 79. That's the parent company of American Eagle. Helicopter crash equals 79. Murder equals 79. Where did I just see it with this plane? The registration number for this plane, look at it. N, and then look at the first numbers, 709. Very similar to the 79. Again, Society of Jesus equals 79. That's the formal title of the Jesuits, which the Pope's a member of. He's the first Jesuit Pope, and Arturo Sosa, born November 12th, is the leader of. But again, Society of Jesus 79, American Airlines 79, helicopter crash 79. You could also say, for the record, instead of it being the 79th day of the Superior General's age, you could say it was 78 days after his birthday, like Trump's 78 years old right now. 78 is the 12th triangular number. Again, going with the 12th Aviation Battalion, and this happening 12 days before the new movie comes out, or the new series about Black Hawk Down. And yeah, if you do have time, I'd encourage you to watch the longer video. You can always do the playback speed on 1.5 and zip through it. And last night I also brought in the piece about, the seeming tribute to hockey. Notice today's big detail is that the several of the victims are part of the Boston Figure Skating Club. Several of them are Russian. Of course, a lot of the stars in the NHL are Russian. Figure skating, ice, hockey. Trump just had his little rally in Capital One Arena. First indoors inauguration in 40 years. The last one was number 40, Ronald Reagan, indoors in Gematria equals 40. Again, the first act of weather warfare was admitted to August 15th, 1952, the Jesuit order's birthday. You pay attention to that day, August 15th, you'll see all the shenanigans that go on, like when the government collapsed in Afghanistan and we left billions of dollars of military equipment in there. These things aren't an accident. That's why they have this puppet show of bought and paid for political parties, both controlled by Jesuit puppets from Biden to Trump to Fauci to RFK Jr. and the rest of them. And then they can throw one out of office and bring the next one in and then point the fingers, and nobody sees the larger picture. They're too caught up in the political party they subscribe to, too caught up in their favorite news channel, which never gets to the bottom of anything. Turn on CNN, all they can show you all day is the same map of supposedly how the plane and the helicopter collided as it was going for runway 33. Shout out to Don Mata. Again, you guys, this is what we do in our community, man. We take advantage of the rig sports, and you got guys like Don Mata who are always generous when they hit a nice one. But yeah, the game really is rigged. That man who just tipped right now, if you caught that, he's a native of this area right here. So here, let's see what happened with the Blackhawks game tonight, since that's what he's talking about. Blackhawks were a big old payout tonight. If you took them with the goals, you covered the bet. 3-2. And remember, the Blackhawks beat the Capitals on the Pope's birthday. Score was also 3-2, like America equals 32. Like how the 32nd degree of the Scottish Rite shares the motto with the Jesuits in Marum Dei Gloriam. Like there's 32 sun rays on the Jesuit Order's logo. Again, the Pope's birthday is December 17th. Blackhawks had an upset of the Capitals on that day. And now the Black Hawk helicopter, out of place, has upset the capital and the nation with a big old tragedy. But yeah, it's interesting how the Blackhawks have the same score the night after. Okay. Yeah, there's more that can be said, but a lot of it I covered in the larger video I put out last night. So this is a more abbreviated version with less yes sirs. And I'll keep my eyes peeled for any other details that emerge. Again, thank you everyone who hits the like and the share. And until next time, True Seeker.